one watch and I look down, I'm like, oh my god, I'm like way above what I'm supposed to be doing. And for example, like today I don't remember what my interval sets were, but I went up NCAR and that probably was a poor choice for what I had to do today. And like by the third time I went up there, I was supposed to do one more, and I like wound up not going the last time up it. But my watts were like all over the place. Like I looked at the graph and it was.
Well, yeah, it's definitely getting better. But you know, the reason why I use I build that control component into the training is that is an important part of cycling. So as you know, we're talking about like the frustrations of what it's like to not be able to do more power, or to not be able to, you know, keep making the workouts harder and stuff. You know, if you were to take the entire Tour de France peloton before the tour and did a FTP test on them, right? Like they would all be the same FTP almost, right? They would all be very close as their threshold power would be very similar. But at the end of the Tour de France, right, one guy is flying and everyone else is effed and dropped, right? And the reason for that is people have control in different zones. So when they go up the climbs, or when they're on the flat roads and they're in the echelons and they're on the cobbles and they're in the crosswinds, there are riders that are strong but are also able to control their output. That is so important for you guys to like getting past that ceiling. It's not just about more power, it's about more control. So when the peloton is jumping and moving around and accelerating, when you hit a climb like we were talking about, and you don't move up and everyone sprints around you and you just stay there and you hold your power steady, and then you weld it back together and then you go up the top of the climb, right? Like we do multiple laps, we do multiple climbs, we do multiple circuits in our events and our races. Being there in the end is not the strongest absolute power person. It's the people that can control the scenario, that can control their effort. Also in breakaways, when you get in a breakaway or when you pull on the front, you can pull a million different ways, but you want to pull the fastest with using the least amount of power. And that's about that control. So like with you, right, like making you do the control on the hills, making you do the control on the flats, making it at high power, and then low power, and then standing at a low cadence, and then standing at a high cadence, and then sitting at a high cadence, and then sitting at a low cadence, and then accelerating and decelerating. Well, what's happening? You're basically recreating a race each day, but it's consistent, right? So we're doing it every day, and it's slowly teaching you, because we can't teach all this. This is like, 20 years of cycling that you're learning in 1 year. So it takes time, but that control, and don't be frustrated with it, like embrace that, right? Like that's just like, that's just being able to shoot that free throw like that much more consistent and that much better. And when you get into the race and you get into the event, and you see those people surging, you have that confidence where you're like, you know what, like I'm gonna sit here and control this 200 watts right here. I know you're gonna come back, right? I'm not worried about you. Where you see everyone else right now, someone surges, everyone sprints into the back of them and then locks them up, and then sprints into the back of them and locks them up. You think you do that for 3 weeks of the Tour de France? Heck no, right? And that peloton's crazy. So these people, like I remember seeing Chris Horner's power, like, when I was learning, racing and stuff, like, I'd have one power, and I'd look at my power, after the race, and then he would post his online on the SRM site, and I'd look at it, and it was like we were in 2 different races. It was unbelievable. And then that was when I started to learn. I was like, wait a second, like he's doing something different up there, right? Like when you're in the peloton, you think that person's just Superman, right? You're like, holy crap, like they must have gone up that climb at 700 watts. But no, like they went up the climb at their low threshold, and I was blown and I went up the climb at my medium because, I did the 300 surges in the back all day, and that person was, silky smooth up in the right spot of the peloton. So that's the key of the control. Time trialing is another one, right? Like, you see this with time trialists all the time. It's like being able to control where you're building the momentum and where you're maintaining the momentum. So many people just go wacko, right? They start and they do these big surges of 500 watts, and then they come down here to 200 watts, and then 500 and 200, 500, 200. What do you think your body remembers, the 200 or the 500? every 500 is like a basketball to the face, right? Like bam, ow, ow, right? And then every time you get hit in the face with a basketball, like you're not getting hit in the face with a basketball in the time that you're not getting hit, right? Was your body relax in that time? No, it's like this. It's like ah. So that's what's happening in all those surges, right? Your body tenses up and remembers the 500, forgets the 200, and then you get to the end of the race and you see the average of 250 and you're like, I'm at my ceiling, I suck, I can't get any better, blah, blah. No, like you smash your body 300 times out there. I call it, doing the most work to go the slowest possible, right? That's what happens in most group rides, right? And I did one last Wednesday, and I was like, man, that is the absolute hardest we could have made that to go the slowest possible, right? Sprint the bottom of every climb, and then sit up at the top and coast to the next climb, right? It's so hard, and we go so slow. So that's another reason to control